Hey, this is Darcy from The Conscious Builder. You're watching episode 8 of our Net Zero build. Now that the initial part of framing's all wrapped up, we had our roofers come by and get us a little bit more waterproof for here. So they got the roof on so we can get going on the rest of the house. It gets real busy on site now. Lots of subtrades coming in and going, and you got to schedule everyone in. We've got the siding guys started. They're putting the drive-it system on the outside of the house, which is the blue troweled on membrane. That is our weather barrier and air barrier on this project, but not a vapor barrier. Very critical to make sure you know which one's going on and which one's not. With this system, you can buy a few different membranes that get traveled on, and you just want to make sure that the guy you're using is, or the one you're using is correct for the job. So here, because we're going to have an interior poly vapor barrier, we made sure that the product on the outside is not a vapor barrier, because that is a possibility. You can get air, vapor, and weather barrier in one product. Along with that, we've got the basement going. So we've got 5 inches of EPS foam underneath the slab that we laid down on top of our 6 inches, 8 inches of clear gravel underneath. On top of that, we're running a 10 mil air and vapor barrier that's all taped at all the seams. We had our plumber come in and he ran his plumbing just under slab. Pretty critical to get that bang on where you need. So you need to make sure you have all your locations for your toilets and where you want walls so you can run his vents up through, also your stack. So you'll have that all laid out, and the plumber will run that under slab, and then we run our foam and poly on top of that, and we seal our poly to the plumbing to make sure we're 100% airtight underneath the slab. Your plumbing under slab does get inspected by the city, so the city will come by, take a look at it. On this house here, we don't have radon, so we don't need to run a radon pipe or have our air barrier inspected by the city. But if you are in a radon zone, you will have to have your poly inspected by the city to make sure that it's fully airtight, and also your radon pipe coming out so you can test for it afterward. On the walls of the basement, we're running a 4-inch XPS foam. So that gets installed in the wall with Hilti shots. And then the poly from the basement slab gets taped to that. So we're pretty much making a foam box, and then with the poly under the slab wrapping up the walls. To continue the air and vapor barrier up the walls, we're just going to be taping the XPS all the way up the walls up to the 2-inch high load that's running underneath our sill. We tape that joint, and that's going to continue our air barrier from the inside to the outside. From the 2-inch XPS on the outside, we flash into it with the trowel-on material, the trowel-on air barrier, and that runs our air barrier on all the way up to the trusses. The foam in the basement, we've picked a 5-inch EPS due to cost, quite a bit cheaper than running XPS underneath the slab, because we're really just looking for an R value down there. So 5-inch EPS from Styrorail, we're getting an R20 out of it. We could get a higher R value per inch. We could go to the like graphite infused EPS from them. That gets you about an R4.5 or 4.3 per inch. But we've just opted for the standard stuff because 5 inches will get us our R20. And that's a little bit cheaper than running 4 inches of XPS. It's about half the cost. On the walls, we did run an XPS because we're looking for a full air and vapor barrier out of our foam. That way we don't need to rely on a poly air barrier in the basement. It also made the basement a little bit bigger, running 4 inches versus a 5-inch. And then in front of that foam, once it's all taped up, we'll be framing a wall, a 2x4 wall, and that's going to allow us to run electrical through it, and also get another layer of bad insulation in. Hey, this is Des from The Conscious Builder. If you want to stay up to date on all of our jobs, you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you soon.